Hello, everyone. This is JC Soto with Online Media 360. Welcome to my show. Today, we have someone that went from being a corporate accounting clerk, she became a massage therapist, and then became again an entrepreneur. She now teaches classes on how to help you have a more enjoyable day and more in tune with your intentions so you can achieve your goals in life. Her name is Wendy Watson. She's the founder of To Be Revealed Spiritual Health. She's a spiritual therapist and soon to be a published author. Welcome to the show, Wendy.
Hi, thank you. It's nice to meet everybody.
Yes, and I would like to talk to you first of all about. I'm so fascinated with this spiritual therapist um, title that you have and the things that you do. Can you explain to us what is it that you do, how you help your clients, and the challenges that they bring to you when they contact you?
So, as a spiritual therapist, I help reveal what blockages are holding you back from becoming your most truest and purest form of yourself, and being able to help you find your path, stay on your path, and make that a trailblazed path and just own it.
So you help people kind of start from the beginning, from discovering what is it that they are wanting to achieve in life, and get in touch with that from the spiritual way of looking at it, right?
Right. So, the spiritual way of looking at it is really being in tune with your higher self, being in tune with your soul, being in tune with your spirit, and whatever relationship you have with the divine, the universe, God, whatever vocabulary you want to use, however you define that is what works best for you. And so I want to help you define that, figure out what it means, help establish that relationship with yourself, and really harmonize what with what is true for you.
Okay. So when your clients contact you and they have this myth, misconceptions, these fears, what are those?
You know, Usually it's nothing. I can't really say too many specifics because it's different for everybody, right? So, but a lot of what I get is that a lot of what they're being reared with is not in alignment with themselves, and they feel like they've had to shut part of themselves off or down in order to appease the adults. And now that they're becoming adults, they're trying to find they're realizing that that's not working for them, and now they have to redefine who they are.
Okay. So in your experience, do you find that it's really challenging for people to, rediscover that part of themselves?
Yeah, to really break out of that shell and to break out of what we've been taught we should be for the last 10, 20, 30 years, and it has been so con- concreted into us by adults. Like, to break that and to really try and identify ourselves as who we really are can be very complicated
Yes, I
and
believe so.
very
Yeah,
emotional.
yeah, I agree with you. Now, how do you go from being a corporate accounting clerk to helping people rediscover that spiritual side that we all have?
Oh my gosh, I have retransformed myself so many times in this life. It's unbelievable. Um, you know, I grew up in both a construction site and in the office with my mom. And so it was just kind of natural to fall into the corporate world. And I'm very good with numbers. And so that's just what kind of happened. Right. And then in 2009, I got laid off with all the corporate restructurings and all the things. And it was truly a blessing. And I really didn't want to go back to a cubicle. It felt very suffocating. And so I made I made a list of what I wanted my new career to have in it. And I knew I couldn't afford a 4-year degree. So I started looking at the vocational ones, and with all the things that I wanted, massage therapy just checked off all the boxes. And I'm kind of a fearless person, so if it checked off all the boxes, then I'm just gonna go for it and see what happens.
And in the process, you also moved from one state, completely from one state in the United States to another state. So you moved completely your business, you shut it down and started another business in a different state.
Yeah, so after being in the massage industry for 12 years and establishing my business that way, and then also establishing a second business that has nothing to do with that. Then I completely shut down, closed my business, sold my house, paid off all my bills. I also even ended up having to put my dog down and move to a state I'd never been to start all over again.
Wow. And then you started to be revealed. That's your new business now.
Yeah, I just rebranded in January and starting to get that going and really focus on what my new path is. So massage therapy got me this far, but now it's time to up my level and use more skills that I have that I've developed over the last 12 years so I can help people from a much deeper level.
Okay. You help both men and women?
Men, women, children, geriatric, whatever gender they want to go by.
So is there a difference between helping a man rediscover his spiritual side versus helping a female or woman to do that?
Yes, because men are reared on a general basis. You know, obviously not everything fits every situation, but on a general basis, men are reared to suppress their emotions. And so it's harder for them to break that mold and try and list or name what their emotions are, versus women are very much in that. And I need to get them to try and think about it logically, or let them cry in my room, right? In order to be able to get it out so that we can get to the logical side of it.
And that, of course, they take different amounts of time to get that accomplished.
Everybody takes their own, right? Everybody progresses and grows and processes emotions or events at their own speed. So everybody's going to be different as far as the amount of time that it's going to take.
Okay.
And it all
Now,
depends on how diligent they want to be with their growth too.
yeah, how dedicated they are and
Mhm.
yeah, the time they put in.
Yes.
Yeah. And tell me about the classes that you offer.
So I offer some healthy living classes on Monday nights at 6 p.m. at my studio off of Parker Road. Uh, Yesterday, we talked about reflect, receive, refill, and recharge. Next week, we're talking about masculine energy. 2 weeks ago, we talked about feminine energy. And it's just identifying healthy ways of living, like how to cope with difficult conversations, learning about different energy systems, learning about what a healthy feminine energy is versus an unhealthy, and how that plays a role in how we interact with people and how we feel and how we live our lives.
Yes, yes. And you are also in the process of getting a book published, right?
I am.
Let's talk
And
about that. What is the book about? What was the inspiration? And when is the kind of the not the scheduled time to get it published, but the probably the time you think maybe it's going to be more realistic to see it out on the bookshelves?
so my book is titled Verbal Turbulence: The 70-20-10 Rule. And the it's about changing my nemesis into my best friend, which was communication. And my communication used to be very turbulent. I would just say whatever flew out of my mouth, and regardless of how people reacted or how it would make them feel, to becoming a very effective and efficient communicator. And I used the 70-20-10 rule as my teacher on how to do that. And then basically it gave me an avenue of how to find value in communication with other people, with myself, with interactions between people or experiences. And so that's what the book is about. There's your inner turbulence, your outer turbulence, your operational turbulence. And we're looking forward to getting it out this fall.
Okay, good. Now, without revealing much about the 70-20-10 rule, can you give us a little more where that came from without giving the whole thing away? Just a little bit more about that. That's kind of intriguing.
Yeah, so I got that from my audit manager at my last corporate job that I got fired from in 2009. I was very much a perfectionist. There was no excuse why something couldn't be resolved for any reason. So although that served me well in my position, it did not serve well in my interactions with my coworkers. So my audit manager came to me one day and he's like, just so you know, he's like, this is how we look at it. As long as 70% of the POs get processed and they go through, great. 20% need to be escalated and 10% can be written off. We're happy with that. And I was like, wait, you're okay with writing stuff off? Like, that was a new concept for me. And then it was like, wait, I don't have to be perfect. Right? Like, who doesn't need to hear that? And it was a total life changer. And then I started applying that formula to everything, and it just works.
It works, and it works in the spiritual application also.
It works in the spiritual application. It works in business application. It works in communication. It works in establishing ethics and morals. It applies in so many different ways.
Oh, that's exciting, and that's going to be part of the book. That's probably a big part of the book, right? That formula.
That is everything about the book.
Okay,
Yes.
that's
Yes.
good to hear.
The formula is the biggest part of the book. Yeah.
Mhm. Can you think of a lesson that you learned earlier in life that you still apply today? I know you had 3 businesses so far, or 2 businesses back to back to back. So you apply some of this stuff already. What are you still using today from when you were a little girl growing up that you still apply either to business or to life every day?
So I just found out a few years ago that I was a lot more spiritual when I was a kid than I remember being. And it was a family friend of mine that told me that I could read people back when I was really young, like 2, 3, 4. And I don't remember it, but she's like, yeah, you could read people, you could tell people, about themselves, things that they didn't really want to have repeated or said out loud, which is why I got in trouble for it. And being able to learn people and being able to understand them and read them with their permission, I think is really important, because then you really dive into who they are, and their therapy is specific to them. And it's not just some protocol or following, certain guidelines and rules. You're actually tailoring it to them in that moment on that day.
Okay. And was that when you decided to start this second business? Was that the impetus? Was that the spark? Thinking back to those days and still having that faculty develop like you have it, that kind of make you think about, well, maybe this is what I should be doing. This is my calling.
It was, I wanted to utilize, I wasn't fully utilizing my skill set for people. I wasn't fully utilizing what God gave me.
Mm.
And so I wanted to do that and help more people on a deeper level, since that is the skill set that I have.
Okay. And that's gonna be, um, from now on. That's your goal and your mission is to help people with that. But what else you have in mind to offer? What else is coming to you that you see that people need? I know the spiritual side is that's kind of the tip of the arrow, but there are other things that people need. The business side, the relationship side, the health side. There's kids. In your practice. What do you see that is the most pressing thing that people ask you for help with?
Trauma.
Okay.
Most people end up asking me for help with some sort of trauma, whether it's some form of abuse, whether it's from a car accident. I'm starting to have more and more people with suicidal tendencies that are coming into my circle, just naturally and organically coming into my circle and helping them through that process, or to change those mindsets, to modify those. So I do plan on eventually establishing a workshop, just like a 6-month workshop, in order to help people get through any kind of unresolved trauma.
That's pretty powerful. That's pretty powerful. And I think, do you also help kids, youth, young people?
I do, yes. Actually, I have a picture of me working on my 3-year-old niece. And my cousin was shocked that she was even laying still for more than 30 seconds, right? Because
Yeah,
3-year-olds don't really lay still.
that's a miracle.
She's just, my cousin's like sitting there like this on the couch, like, what in the world is happening right now? She never sits still. Yeah, I love working. The earlier that we can work on ourselves, the better quality of life that person can have. So I also offer infant massage, where I teach parents how to massage their infant. The earlier that we can teach them how to relax, the earlier that we can teach them what positive touch is versus negative touch, right? The earlier that we can teach them healthy coping skills, all these things, the better. So I work with all ages.
Yeah, that's so much need for, when you're talking about kids getting depressed, feeling bullied, and having all these challenges today that they need that help.
Especially with the mental health issues that we're having these days, COVID. When I grew up, and I'm sure it was very similar for you, we didn't have all this social media. When we got out of school, we were done with all the bullying and the school kids and whatever. We went home to our safety area and we only contacted our best friends. Nowadays, they don't get to escape that because their friends are on social media, or they're being bullied on social media, or all this negative connotations or whatever it is that they're reading on their algorithms. They don't get a break. And so it's really important that we help them cope with all that stuff.
Yeah, now it's 24/7.
It is. It's
And
24/7.
yeah, and now, when we growing up, uh, college was it was at least affordable back then. Now kids have to worry about, you got to do well in schools, and probably you have to do 2 or 3 sports. So hopefully you can get a scholarship. On top of that, you got to do well on your schooling, work. So there's a lot of pressure on these kids nowadays.
Right. There's the pressure for what adults feel is the normal process of life, right? When we're 4 or 5, we start preschool. Then we start elementary school. Then we go to junior high and high school. The natural progression is college. And then you get married. And then you have kids. And you work till you're 65. And then you finally get to retire. And then you finally get to have fun. And life does not have to go in that order. But putting the pressure on our kids that that's the order that they have to live their life, that they have to establish their life, then when something doesn't go right, they're not married or have their kids by the time they're 30. And now there's this pressure to have kids by the time you're 35, because then you're in high risk and all the other things. They don't know what to do with that.
That's right. Yeah. And, and the fact is that some of these kids, they are, they carry all this baggage all the way to 30, 40, 50, and they don't know who to call, who to, and they pass this, when they become adults, they pass the same stress and the same bad habits and the same anxiety to their own kids.
And it's not some people even take it in even older than that. My uncle, who just turned 71 on March 1st, who has been battling addiction, has been to prison, all these things, didn't get to raise his daughter because of all of these things. Took him 45 years up until last year when he hit 70 to finally release the resentment and the anger around the addiction. And I was so thankful that he finally did it, so he doesn't have to live the rest of his life with it. I mean, yes, it would have been great if he could have done it sooner, but the point is that he did it at some point, and he can enjoy the rest of his life in a much more peaceful and pleasant way that he wants to.
Yeah. I mean, and just these things that you teach people, you help people with, I wish that was, integrated in the school system, that we have all these other stuff that we are subjected to, but this stuff, just like financial health and spiritual health, should be just as important for people to just get it, learn it when we are young kids. As soon as we start reading, you should learn about this stuff, because it's challenging enough when you start getting in your teens. I mean, that's the age where people are just they don't know how to deal with that.
Right. Their emotions are all over the place. They're just learning what emotions are, let alone how to manage them and name them and all the things. I had a client that was in her 20s. She was using an app to identify her emotions because she'd never been allowed to feel her emotions. She was an alpha child in a traditional Asian household. She wasn't allowed to have emotions. So she's using an app. And I was both happy and sad. I was happy that she had a tool, some sort of tool to use. But it's also very sad that we're at the point that we're using an app to identify emotions.
It's sad. It's sad that, there are how many hundreds of thousands of kids are going through this same thing, every day.
Right. But I mean, it's better to have an app than to have nothing.
No, definitely it is.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
grateful for the app, but it's also like, okay.
As society, that's pretty sad, that we're at that point that kids are not, they don't know what they're feeling, how to deal with it.
I mean, it's better than it used to be, I think, because a lot of the kids that we have these days, if you'd put them in our environment 50 years ago, they would have been sent to the mental hospitals where they get electric shock and, the cold baths and all that kind of stuff where we used to torture each other. So I think it's better, but it's also different.
Yeah,
In
I
Go
think
ahead.
it's better that those solutions are available. The thing is, how many of the kids are really accessing those? How many of them are taught that that's available? That's okay. That is okay to go there. That
Right. And that's exactly it. Like the schools can only teach so much.
yeah,
To me, s- life is school,
it
right? It
is.
takes a community to raise a child. It takes a world to really show us perspective and show us different things. And I think a lot of people and a lot of parents are so inundated with the today, with taking out the trash, getting dinner made, going grocery shopping, getting kids to their outside activities, getting them to and from school, getting them to and from their sleepovers and their friends' birthday parties and all the things, that it's really hard to then also incorporate all of the other healthy, spiritual, religious, whatever components that you want to bring into that as well. Like there's a lot to keep.
Yeah,
It's a lot.
a lot of stuff. Well, Wendy, this has been a great conversation. I love it. We can go on for days. This stuff is so extensive that we will never stop. So I want
Right.
to say thank you for coming onto my show. Um, what's your website so my listeners can go and take a look at what you offer?
It is tbrspiritualhealth.com. You can also find TBR Spiritual Health on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook.
All righty. Well, thank you very much, Wendy. Appreciate you coming on my show and taking time of your busy schedule, getting a book written, getting all this stuff done. So, and to my listeners, all her info is going to be below the recording. Until next time, this is JC Soto with Online Media 360. Bye for now.
Thank you.